Okay, let's get back to those pathogens. We've talked a little bit about them. We've talked about, the time and temperature abuse and how to prevent them from growing. We've talked about the cross-contamination and making sure that they don't get onto things that shouldn't be on, that you don't expect them to be on. But let's talk about those pathogens. Food, mostly meats, okay, they're dirty. Either by the way that they are processed or whatnot. I mean, they're a living, growing organism, and they've got stuff inside of them that they're able to handle as an animal. Okay, but we as humans don't have those, bacteria in our guts. We don't have that immunity to those kinds of diseases. So there are three main classifications for foodborne illnesses. Okay, the first one, bacteria. Second one is virus. And the third one is considered toxins. Now the toxins are created by the bacteria. So the bacteria itself may not actually hurt us, but the toxins that they produce will, and that's what gets us sick. So the best way to kill bacteria is by cooking food. Okay? That's it. Best way to kill viruses is also by cooking the food. You're going to feel disgusting. You're going to feel nausea. You're going to have diarrhea, abdominal pain, fevers, headaches, chills. The stomach flu. Stomach flu comes from foodborne illnesses. And unfortunately, all of them kind of hit you the same way. So it's really hard to tell without actually testing to find out which one you got and why. The bacteria called Salmonella. Salmonella will be on your meats, mostly poultry. It'll be on the eggs and dairy products and things like that. Basically, the way that it gets into that food is by improper cooking. That's how you get sick, because you didn't cook it enough. Okay. Again, the other way, if it's something else and you still get that salmonella on, say you have some lettuce and you got salmonella. What the heck's going on with that? Probably cross-contamination. Another bacteria would be E. coli. So E. coli comes from mostly ground meats, usually beef. It also comes from other kinds of things, some fruits, alfalfa, lettuces, and things like that. And it comes from those because of the cross-contamination that happens in the fields. So, E. coli is a bacteria, and basically you just want to cook the meats. Okay. The good thing about E. coli is, unlike salmonella, which is actually inside of the meat itself with chicken, okay, E. coli is always on the outside of the meats. Okay, so as long as you got a full steak, it's never been cut into. Okay, cook the outsides, nice and seared. Make sure it's fully cooked. Bring it up to the right temperature. Then you'll be good. I mean, you can have your rare steak. Okay, it's not going to hurt you having a rare steak, as long as you cook the outside of that steak. Now, a rare hamburger, on the other hand, you're playing with fire a little bit there. Okay, the whole reason why a hamburger is different than meat is because they're grinding up that meat, and so all that stuff that's on the outside, if that meat had this E. coli on it, this E. coli on it, then it's now inside of the meat. That is why they really stress that if you're going to have ground meat, cook it all the way. So there are ways that companies have mitigated and practically eliminated that E. coli so that you can have your rare burger. Okay? But you need to make sure that the company they're getting from follows some very specific rules. First of all, as the animal comes into the slaughterhouse, he gets a nice, good cleaning. Okay? Then the whole process of the slaughterhouse and the whole process of the processing of that animal is done under very strict conditions. Then, once that animal has been processed, then they pass those meats through what is considered irradiation. Basically, they hit it with some radiation, okay? And that, like I said, the meat itself, inside of the meat, is safe to eat. But it's the outside that's got that E. coli on it. So they hit it with that radiation, and it kind of very lightly cooks the outside of the meat and kills everything that is on it. Now, as long as, once that's happened and it goes into the next step, as long as safe food practices are followed, then that meat is just fine to eat completely raw. Okay? But like I said, there's a lot of steps that need to happen in that process for it to be able to be safe to eat. So make sure that the meat that you are eating, that you're going to have a hamburger that's rare, make sure they're getting it from a really good place that is very careful about their food safety. The next thing is called botulism. Now, botulism, he's a funny one because he doesn't like oxygen. Oxygen doesn't treat him very well. Okay? And it's a bacteria that will form a cyst on the outside of it to protect it from the hot temperatures. So in order to kill back the botulism, you need to cook it to a much higher temperature to be able to press through that protective barrier of the cyst. Now, botulism usually comes in the form of cans. Okay, so your canned vegetables, canned meats. Okay. Another thing that can happen is because of baked potatoes. It actually happens. They bake the potatoes, they wrap it in aluminum foil, and they let it sit for a while. And they think, everything's good. Well, maybe the baked potato didn't quite hit that temperature that it needed to kill that botulism. And now, inside of that aluminum foil, all of the oxygen is gone. It's a nice warm temperature, and it loves and it grows. Okay? So, in order to kill that, you've got to make sure that it comes to a correct temperature. Okay. If you're going for your cans and they're bulged or something like that, get rid of it. Don't even bother. Home canning, the lid's got to be still got to be sealed. Okay. If it's not sealed, get rid of it. Do not use it. Okay. It'll also create a toxin that can get you sick. Let's talk about viruses now. So, I'm sure everyone's heard of the Norovirus. Okay? And in fact, it is, if you get sick, most likely it's from the Norovirus. It's everywhere. Okay? It's very easily transmittable. And it only takes a small amount for you to get sick. Okay? But it is easy to take care of. Okay? So the norovirus usually comes from contaminated shellfish, contaminated water, or contaminated ready-to-eat foods. Okay, and the only way to kill that, again, is to bring it up to the proper temperature. Okay. The thing about the norovirus is that it can survive on surfaces. It survives a good amount of time, and it's easily transmittable. So if you've got it on your hands and you don't wash your hands properly, okay, and then you touch something, a door handle, somebody else touches a door handle, the same door handle, and then goes down and starts sitting down and starts eating their food without washing their hands, congratulations. You're probably going to end up with norovirus. That's why it's such a big thing, you know, you hear about them on the cruise ships, stuff like that, you know. There's a lot of people on the cruise ships, and not everybody washes their hands like they're supposed to. They're in confined spaces. Everybody's touching handles, everybody's touching things, okay. I think in the last several years, it's become such a big, knowledgeable kind of a thing, and such a, you know, everybody's talking about it and things like that, that people's hygiene habits have definitely improved. You know, especially since we've had the coronavirus. People's ideas of what they should be doing, washing their hands, you know, before eating, make sure they're washing their hands, the way that they're washing their hands. You know, it's all great. It's all good for food safety.